Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We're back again with our InfoSec Girls meetup. And for this month, we have an interesting session around attack surface monitoring. Last month, we had something around the coding and OWASP developer guide. But then let me tell you, every month we'll have some really, really interesting sessions. And not just monthly, now we'll do it very quickly. So next week also, we have one session. Stay tuned for that, and we'll have a lot of workshops coming up. So just watch out for that. For some of the workshops we'll have registrations as well, so stay tuned for that. Now, without further ado, let me get Antara Mane, who's going to be giving the session on attack surface monitoring today. And she's well known. She's in Mumbai. She's been taking care of a lot of stuff for InfoSec Girls. So let me just invite her on the session. Hi, Antara.
Hi, ma'am. Hello, everyone.
Hi. So, Antara, let's get started with your session. I'm really excited about it.
Sure. Before we get started, I just wanted to wish everyone
Yes.
a very happy Women's Day, and especially to all the women out there who have dared to, dream and are really working hard towards it, and trying to thrive themselves, put themselves out over there in the out in the world, and are really doing well. And also for those who are trying to, get there where they wanted to be, I really wish you guys all the luck and best wishes. And so yeah, that's it, and let's get started with our today's session.
Sure. Let's get started. I can see your screen and I really want to see.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. So, our today's topic of discussion is attack surface management. I believe this, terminology might be quite familiar with for some of you. So, basically, attack surface management is something that is, to safeguard your digital asset that's available on the internet, right? So, we are going to talk about a lot of things in this topic. So, firstly, we're going to talk about the resources, what exactly the attack surface management is. um, then we're gonna move ahead, and we're gonna look into the misconfigurations part of it, and we're also gonna talk about the best practices around it, right? Just a short brief about myself. So, myself, Antara Mane. I'm a pen tester, a security researcher as well, trainer and lead auditor, and I've been working with a couple of banking and insurance and IT sectors in India, and I come up with a background of like three plus years of experience in information security. Also, I do like to find some bugs, like kind of do bug bounty, but it's not but like more of a, like participating in a bug bounty programs. It's more of a, like a private programs, but I do write a technical blog if any interesting vulnerabilities that I have identified, right? And you can read all my articles to the link provided, and down below is my LinkedIn profile if you ever want to get in touch with me for any technical queries, or you need help with any thing related to cybersecurity, right? So let's not waste more of our time and dive into our today's session. So firstly, I would just like to give you an overview of what exactly the information security architecture looks like, right? So as you can see on the screen, so we have like couple of layers in it, right? On the top of it we have like the perimeter security that safeguards our entire infrastructure for us, right? So in that we have like a threat intelligence agent that basically scans up the entire assets on the internet, and it gives you a review on, okay, these many flows has been made, like attempts of flows has been made on this particular asset. And it's more of a like a soft device, you can say, right? Then we have like if you like, if any of the organization is using APIs, then we have like API gateways, right? The API gateways basically monitors the hits and attempt that has been made to basically consume those APIs, right? Then for better enhancement of the security, some of them create honeypot servers for safeguarding the digital assets, right? Then we have WAF on as one of the solutions to safeguard our perimeter. Then we have like DDoS protection. We have like secure DMZ, demilitarized zone that we basically configure in within our premises to ensure that whatever traffic has been hit is not directly onto the internal resources, and that is very much restricted on the external part of it, right? Then we have firewall, of course. Then we have intrusion detection protection as well, and we have intrusion prevention protection as well, as one of the security controls on the perimeter level, right? Deep dive into the network security part. In within our infrastructure, within our internal infrastructure, we have like couple of restrictions that we usually use to safeguard our internal resources, right? For very first that I've seen, and which is pretty much working at like for all the organizations, like web proxy and content filtering, right? So basically when you are in the network, right, so you cannot like google anything, right, other than the website that are actually allowed you to like access, right? That's one of the very good I would say preventive measures, right? And then we have like LAN and NAC control protection is like not allowing any external asset to connect to your internal devices, right? Your internal resources, right? Then we have encryption, we have like endpoint device security, then we have VPN protection, right? Then we have like wireless NAC protection, right? Coming deep down to the next layer, we have like endpoint security, where we mostly deal with zero trust framework, right? So zero trust framework is more of a, like preventing your 0 day attacks, right? So it's like any traffic that's been hitting on to your endpoint, right? It first gets the entire traffic gets monitored. Any leaked out in any of the flow, it basically gets triggers to the your IT team or maybe your infosec team, and then the later is being checked, and then the appropriate reviews are being sent back to you whether to that specific traffic that has been received on the endpoint is it's actually safe or not, right? So you have like that framework with you. So zero trust framework is like quite trending in cybersecurity as well. So this is something that was on premises part, but now there are many cloud providers. They're actually thinking about building the same in cloud environment as well. So giving you efficient cybersecurity controls, right? It's mainly I believe on the API gateway part, and then on the serverless technique that the cloud providers provides, right? So that's an interesting topic. I mean, altogether a very interesting topic to have a conversation on, but let's not go deep dive into it because we have a rest of many interesting areas to cover, right? Then we have like compliance check, then we have like patch management security, right? Then we have like mobile data management, right? Other than network endpoint security, our next layer is application security, right? Where we need to where the very key and very crucial area is to ensuring your access control, right? Your managing your access control, right? Because a couple of a minor misconfiguration could lead you to a disaster, right? And I have like pretty great examples on this as well, which we're going to talk in the upcoming slides, right? And then we have like in application security, we also like we need to take care of the databases that are connected, right? Then we have like load balancers, like the configuration parts of it, right? Then we have like dynamic app testing in it, right? And then we need to look after the logs of the unfailure attempts. Then we need to also look like if an access is provided, right, are we ensuring another layer of security other than the basic authentication mechanism that is already being implemented in an application, right? We also look for MFA, then we look for captcha security and everything, right? Next layer to talk about is the data security part, right? The most crucial one, right? Where we need to ensure that data has been backed up, right, properly, followed by an encryption, which should be two ways: data at rest and data in transit, right? Also ensuring the backups should be in a region where it's accessible to its owner, right? And it should not be in some just to maintain the HA part of it, like the high availability part of it. So it should not be like you are storing the data in the same region, right? It should be like the backup should be in couple of different regions as well, just to ensure that if one of the region gets down for some reason, so you already have another region up and running with you, so you can easily take access to it, and you can just continue with your work, so no hamper on your availability part of it, right? Another one is it is very crucial to classify your data in order to prioritize if this particular section of your data is crucial for you to protect, and then which needs a lesser attention. Because mostly what I've seen in my experience is due to the lack of data classification, many of the organizations fail to protect the actual asset that requires requires pretty attention and pretty much of the security controls on it, right? So if say for example you have data called as in A, and you have not prioritized it, right? And what happens is you end up like uh, purchasing many of the endpoint securities, or any security devices or measures, I would say, controls, I would say, and you would waste tons of money into protecting some things, some assets, which is not like a top priority concern for you, right? Even if it's like some misconfiguration, some mishap happens over there, but at least your crucial data is not being hampered or being impacted, right? So I've seen this in a couple of organizations. So data classification is like really important. Also data wiping, right? Data wiping in the sense, say for example, you have tons of backups in for many of your assets, but if you're not appropriately maintaining the labels of it, right, so you would end up saving the data backups for like years and years, for a decades maybe, right? And you would just use most of your storage. That would cause like pretty much of a costing for an organization, right? And you can imagine the further impacts of it, right? The business impact comes in, the compliance impact comes in, right? There are a couple of things, right? So this is something that like data security part is like a very crucial amongst all the years, right? Then the next layer is like the critical asset that we just spoke about, right? In order to ensure like which assets for you is really critical, that basically holds your crucial information, is it should be of like top priority. And all the latest security control should be like focusing on those specific assets, right? Then further segregation comes into the policy management part and operation part, which contains another subdivisions in it. So under policy management, we have like, it's more on like a compliance part, where we need to ensure that our IT security governance policies are appropriate with the latest standards. For our country, for India, we have like IRDI regulations, we follow RBI regulations as well. So according to their guidelines, our our IT security governance policy should be very niche and up to date, right? And then we have like secure architecture design and review, which is pretty much important while in the SDLC process. Then we have like red teaming, penetration testing that we usually do on all the assets. Then it's like threat modeling is there, like there's also attack simulation. Then we have like technology roadmap, continuous improvement. There are tons of other things, right? Security awareness training is like one of the important aspect, I would say, in this. On the operations part, it's more of a like the detection and monitoring part, right? Which in this particular region, our topic comes in the attack surface monitoring, right? So we're gonna let's dive more into that, right? So this is just the give you an overview of what information security architecture looks like, and what are the layers in it, what each layer contains, and what we as an organization needs to know in order to protect our assets, right? So in this session, what we are gonna mainly focus on is how to not accidentally become a secret agent for hackers. I'm gonna explain this line pretty well in the upcoming slides. What are the common mistakes and misconfigurations one makes, just to keep it safe and not sorry, because once the attack has been performed, and once an attacker is able to extract the information that the attack has intended to, right? So the sorry word doesn't it really further help, right? So it's just keeping safe. And yeah, the introduction to attack surface management. What is attack surface management? What are the criterias in it? And how we can basically utilize this as one of the security measure, I would say, to conquer and ensure that our digital assets uh, on the internet are safe and secure, right? And last part is just a small introduction about OSINT, which is open source intelligence, that every organization needs to understand the terminology of it to ensure that the digital assets that are there on the internet are safe, and they are like no weaknesses, or there are like no I would say any misconfiguration is that could allow an attacker to exploit it further, right? So here's an interesting saying from Sun Tzu's The Art of War. So it goes like, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles. So I'm just going to quickly relate this into the cybersecurity terminology. So here, you meaning your organization, you, right? The enemy is the attackers, right? So what I really wanted to highlight over here is, if you know your organization, if you know what are the security controls and measures you have within your organization, within your like just knowing your entire infrastructure, right? Like how many assets do you own, right? How many of them are critical and are internet facing, how many APIs you have, like basically they're having an entire inventory, right? So if you know your assets, if you know what security controls and measures you have in place as of now, and you also know the attacker, right? In the recent trend, what the attackers has been up to, right? If like just knowing the CVs, or just knowing the technologies, and just knowing the attacker could go after it, right? To find the weaknesses and to exploit them further, right? So if you know both of this, then you need not to result of any cyber attack, right? But if you know only yourself, but not the attacker, like the pattern, and the trend that the attacker was follows, right? So for every victory that you have gained so far, there will also be sure a defeat also, right? And the last one says that if you will succumb in every battle, right? If you know neither the attacker and nor your security controls of your organization. So it just like I just love the ideology of this particular saying, so I've just put it in the slide. So these are the latest, cyber attacks. I've just created an overview of it, and if you see, each one of them had to do with the misconfigurations, or using some weak passwords or something that got leaked, and the attacker were able to extract the bulk information and everything. So here was one in like the Twitter code leakage. This is the recent one, happened in March 2023 last year. So one of the Twitter's setup code was accidentally like made public on the internet, right? And an attacker was able to basically found and there are various techniques to do that, right? So basically the attacker got hold of the publicly exposed Twitter's repository, and with the help of that, basically the attacker was able to gain access to their entire source code, right? With just one leakage of their one public leakage of their repository, right? This caused like a pretty like a great reputational damage for Twitter, uh, right? And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of code leakage as well, right? In the upcoming slides. The next one was of Lapsus. So Lapsus is it's an IT company that provides some cloud based services, right? And it ended up creating like making a misconfigurations of use, like leaving the cloud environment in a default credentials, right? So the attack was basically on the AWS cloud. And what happened was, the IT people who were configuring the AWS account for one of their clients. So whenever you are given with like a fresh new cloud environment within your hand, so you have been given with an root account and one password, right? And then further you have to disable the access of it from to the external users, and you need to create an users in it, and then you need to basically have like uh, appropriate access policy, like allowing appropriate policies to the created users, right? So it's not like creating one single user and then giving it an excessive access or excessive permissions to access the resources, right? So the basic mistake that the team did here was, it did create some of the IAM users for their team as well, but they did not remove the root access of it, right? uh, so and the root access, it was like left open on the internet. The password was the password used for that root account was also pretty common and was easily brute force. So the attacker just found the endpoint to it. So basically the misconfiguration happened due to the public leakage of the one of the buckets through which it went in ahead and tried to brute force for the admin account. That's the root access of it, right? And because of this, the attacker was basically able to gain access to the entire cloud infrastructure for the configured which was configured for one of their client, right? So after this incident, Lapsus had to like really shut down its own company, because this was one of the major critical, I would say, attack, because the attacker was able to basically get take excessive, like entire control and access over to the AWS account, right? And uh, the this was the one major attack. And you can understand the impact that it caused, right? Lapsus has to really shut down its own company due to this incident, right? Another one is a very interesting one. It was SolarWind supply chain attack. So SolarWinds is like a security SOC knock monitoring tool it offers, right? And it is and there is this Orient network, which is a piece of software where the team basically keeps on releasing the latest update versions of it, right? So what happened here is, so the attacker, due to a few misconfiguration in the used third party components, it was able to basically escalate it, and it was able to get a hold of the update server of the Orient networks, right? uh, and since the attackers were able to basically manage and basically take control of the entire Orion, update software of the Orion network, right? So basically it compromised each and every update that were released by SolarWinds, right? So you can imagine, say for example, take your own device. If you're using Windows, if you're using Mac, right, we do receive OS patches, right? So if all the received OS patches are compromised, so you end up basically installing not the security patches, you end up installing malware in your devices, right? Similar case happened with SolarWinds as well. The entire Orion's update network were compromised by the attackers, and there were like 500 plus companies and like other government agencies which basically use their software, and each and every one of them were compromised with the attackers malicious send updates, right? So here also you can just imagine the impact it had caused, right? And all the malware sent to each of the organization which basically had SolarWinds as one of the software installed on their devices ended up installing the malware, and then the malware was like designed in a certain way to just steal the information out of it, right? So this is one pretty great example. Here the misconfiguration was due to the used third-party softwares, and the used third-party softwares had vulnerabilities in it. Right? We know that software supply chain was like booming in past 2 years, right? And it still is. Um, so this is one of the a good example, I would say. And then there are like another one, the Experian API leak. So one API was found on the internet without having any security controls over it. So it was like any basic user with no authentication, no authorization was able to access that particular API. And then with the help of that API, it was able to extract other couple of information that were pretty much sensitive. So it basically ended up downloading like millions of data that contains names, addresses, ID, and credit card score, right? A similar case was found in back in 2021 for Microsoft Power Apps. A certain misconfiguration in Microsoft Power App led to exposure of like millions of records. And then there was a Facebook data leak. So a third party developer basically ended up like exposing crucial data over the internet, and attackers were able to found it when they were basically crawling the data over the internet. So it's like one of the techniques that we use, like the attackers use basically. And then there was another financial leak of First American Corporation Bank that happened back in 2019, which ended up and exposing for data for like 885 millions of records due to a simple weakness in the web application basically. So attacker basically exploited that vulnerability, and basically the web application didn't have appropriate authentication authorization checks. Basically such subject and object metric based authentic verification and authorization was like pretty misconfigured, or I would say developed very weakly. And this weakness allowed an attacker to exploited further and ended up downloading millions of data, and which were also exposed to a dark web later, right? So couple of just examples of cyber attacks that happened due to certain other misconfigurations. Let's dive into more into common mistakes and configurations. uh, so there are many examples that I have seen myself of source code leakage via code versionings, uh, or just when a developer basically sits on to develop some software or APIs. So if the code repositories are restricted in within an internal network, so which is pretty much great and works fine. But if they are working in a public space, right? If they're working in some using their own personal IDs, right? They ended up creating public spaces, and then they ended up uploading the whatever code that they've written on the internet, right? So I can show you a couple of examples as well. I've just so this is just to give you an overview and not basically create any attack around it. So if you would see, here are the key engines, I would say, which basically an attacker used to search for the weaknesses, right? And in the query string, you have to pass the targeted company's name, right? And okay, I believe my screen is just a second. Okay, let me
Yes,
share
it's
the screen so that I could show you the example as well. Entire screen. Okay. Okay, I hope now you can see it. So this is the search key engines, I would say, and here if you just put the company name if you wish to target, and if you just create the repositories or code or anything that you wish to search for, you would see whatever data that the uh, developers or users that have been using have put on it, and which are basically public. So this is how basically an attacker keeps on monitoring for the results, keeps monitoring for any leakages on the internet, right? So GitHub is one. Then we have Bitbucket as well. Then we have Postman collection as well. Then we have Swagger APIs as well. And there are a couple of Google working methods, I would say, that uh, basically an attacker uses to uh, see what all crawled results are there available on the internet, and which one can use to curate the further attacks, right? And there are many other these are like pretty common, but there are many other websites as well that basically an attacker uses in their daily purposes to crawl the results, to basically keep a sync to which all technologies that this particular organization is using, and basis on that it goes ahead and it finds for the weaknesses, and then it goes and further exploiting it, right? So code leakage is a like pretty common mistake that I've seen, and I'm going to show you a couple of POCs as well in the upcoming slides, where we where in my pen testing I've actually found a live code, and was able to basically extract all the code onto my machine. And then within that code as well, there are a couple of secrets hard coded identified. I'll explain you in the upcoming slides. Second one is accidentally committing sensitive information like credentials, API keys to public code repositories. Basically, I could have shown you a couple of examples, but it would not be ethical, because it's like another organization's data I would be accidentally leaking out. So no live demos in this session, because I also did try to find couple of other demo purposes websites as well, but then it didn't contain any specific search match to what I wanted to exactly showcase. So I hope that probably next time I'll come up with some live demos with specific keywords in it, and that would help you understand. But right now what I've showed, right, on Jetup Bitbucket, there are like very specific keyword that you need to use, and with the help of those keywords you need to basically identify what all repos or whatever codes that particular organization has put up, and that has been made public in a public workspace that you could easily access, right? And with the help of that, then basically you need to further go through each and every code repositories, each and every repositories that are public, and you need to basically search for the credentials, if there are any API keys, or if there are any API authorization token that are being hard coded, right? And let me tell you one thing, in the leakage of API keys, what my experience is that, so leakage of API keys through Postman and Swagger, there are like very what if I've example that I've seen, where the organization ended up exposing everything on the internet, basic the on these two platforms itself, Postman and Swagger Up, right? And it did contain API keys. It also contained authorization keys as well, authorization APIs as well, right? So it's like you yourself is like authenticating yourself to gain access to the other APIs that were leaked on the internet, right? And then I was able to basically consume all of their APIs, right? And it also, some of the credentials, some of the basic information were also leaked out, which I was able to extract and gain control of. So I hope and yeah, I have mentioned in a couple of screenshots in the upcoming slides, so I'll quickly share those with you. Next is data exposure via social media. So on social platform, like some people, maybe they are overexcited or something, but they ended up but they ends up exposing some information that an attacker might use as I would say as one of the entry points to understand the one piece of area properly, and then perform for the targeted attacks, right? And then there is credential leakage through paste sites. So there is one website called as Paste Bin, uh, where if there are any encoded, or if there are any encrypted passwords and everything, right? So this is the this is a tool where most of the users comes in and basically searches for one of the other company, or like target's name, and you would see the leaked out passwords, not in a clear text but in an encrypted or maybe in an encoded format, which you could later convert it, or you could decode it. If you have an access to their encryption key by any means of the code leakage, you could literally go ahead and say it in a clear text manner as well. And I have like couple of examples with me, where I was able to basically retrieve a password in a clear text manner, which I used to gain access to the couple of web applications, and perform my further attack on that, right? Then we have like using of weak or default or reuse passwords. I believe we have run through ourselves on this particular line couple of like majority of the times, right? In all our awareness sessions, in all in every basic cybersecurity training that you have you have received, right? We do highlight this, that use of breached password, weak password, like avoid using that. Writing passwords on a piece of paper and later just leaving it everywhere on the desk or your table, or any preferred your area zone, where any external user or any unknown person could have could easily have an access to, right? I've personally seen this, right? And then there are like reused password that you keep on using on a couple of websites, which also is not a good security practice, right? So avoid using this, because I've still seen in the web application part as well, there are passwords on in like if say for example you are in we are in March month, right? So the password would go like March at the 2024, right? These are like the reality I'm saying, right? I've seen because it helped me brute force passwords like these, and then I was able to gain access to the web application. So please avoid using weak or default or any reused passwords. There are many password managers available. Chromium itself has come up with its own password wallet that you can use, and it's pretty safe. Then we have passphrase key as well. Then McAfee itself provides a password storage, a passwords vault, right, where you can safely store your password. It also helps to create a strong password, right? Make use of these, right? Secrets leakage to client side encryption. Okay, I have a great I would say write up on this. This is it. Let me just quickly. open it up. So, in order to give you a background on what this attack was, so there was this web application, and it basically used client side encryption, and uh, like the logic part of it, what algorithm that they were using for encryption and everything, the key and everything was exposed on the client side. So basically the client side encryption makes it easier for to run the web applications, right? So if the encryption goes on client side, so it make the web application a bit bulky, and then the resource loading part of it like consumes some time and the user experience gets affected on it, right? So most of the developers prefers that using a client side encryption would help would increase the accessibility part of their web applications, right? So this was just me identifying the exact pattern, the key, and the logic where the encryption and decryption was happening. And then here I was able to make changes in it, like making some arbitrary input, like giving arbitrary inputs to the web application, and then further with the entire couple of things, then I was able to actually gain access to some another customers data, right? So this was one of the example of client side use. And another one was this web application also used client side encryption, token and everything was exposed in client side as well, with the help of which I was able to create another verification token for some another arbitrary user, and then with the help of that I was able to gain like access to it, right? So this was also one pretty great example of it, right? I think that's it on the client side encryption part. So while using any client side scripts or anything, developers should ensure that you are not hard coding any secrets in it. No logics are being exposed via client side, and then you keep everything on the server side as well for ensuring better security, right? Another one is using components with known vulnerabilities. This is like this particular misconfiguration like was pretty much booming past in 2021 2 as well, and in 3 as well. I have also delivered one topic on software supply chain attack that basically covers this topic like at a larger scale. So it basically talks about the third party components vulnerabilities, it dependencies, the vulnerability it dependencies carries, and how one can exploit these vulnerabilities to basically gain unauthorized access to your internal resources, being an external users, right? So this is there. And basically sometimes you do not have a complete visibility to what all third party component that you're using, right? So it's like you do not have a graph of it to like there are like many assets, like in an organization if you would see there are like more than, I would say, 200 assets that you need to look up, that one needs to look after, right? Even though there are like couple of people in a team that manages it, but I would assure that none of them would have an entire visibility on the third party packages, the licensing part of it, the compliance part of it, and the risks associated with the license, right? If you're using one technology, say for example Apache Tomcat, right? If Apache is like an open source platform to use, right? But the licensing part of it, right, you could on some level it gets ignored, right? Then comes the issue of compliance, and if it's not running on the latest version of it, and then it creates a problem, right? So this visibility, I think a couple of organization lack, not couple, most of the organization lacks. And there are some automated ways as well that you could come up with, like software composition analysis that OAPs came up with, like scanning your third party packages and then giving you visibility of these packages running on the latest version if it contains any vulnerabilities or not, right? Then there are some misconfigured cloud storage as well, and we could still see. I could have shown you a live demo as well, but it could like really expose the data. There are like some techniques that you could use to basically brute force for the publicly available storages. It could be like If you're talking about Amazon, so it could be S3 buckets, right? If you're talking about Azure, it could be blob storages, right? There was one pretty great attack that happened. So they were like Azure blob storage keys that were leaked on one of the GitHub's on one of on the GitHub platform by one of the developer, and an attacker was able to basically find using the like the docking methods and OSINT method, and the authentication part on that particular block storage was like you just need to provide the key to it, and then you basically got hold of all the backups and all the file systems and all the data that was basically configured and stored on that in that particular storage machine, right? So that was pretty good example, and it still kind of happens. When you like when an attacker like basically focuses on one or the other uh, uh, area, right, on one specific target, right? So it could basically search for all these resources and like plan for further attack, right? Then we have code, data, secrets, leakage to expose Docker containers as well. You could easily find this on Docker as well. So you just need to provide the right keyword here, and you would see what all publicly exposed image you have, and one just needs to like with one simple pull command of the Docker, like utilizing the Docker, you can just download the entire image. You could see what all assets has been listed in it, and what all engines are running in that particular image, and then you could further, if there are any availability of the code on that particular identified Docker image, right? Then you could basically dump all the code. You could basically do a secure code review on it. You could look for some credentials, some secrets in it, and then you could curate your further attacks. So this is also one of the area that one needs to look after. And there are like live examples of this as well, where people have ended up exposing everything via the use of the container technologies, right? Insufficient API key. The example that I just gave, like there was one while doing pen testing, I found like there was one company. It basically ended up exposing everything via Swagger and Postman, and their APIs didn't have the like the API key was not restricted to like each and every APIs that they have, right? And since the authorization token was also exposed to using that token, I was able to basically consume all of their APIs, right? But there are still few APIs for which you would not find authorization token for, but it's also not protected using an appropriate API key to basically access that particular resource, right? So not allowing this the like not enforcing the API key protection in the used API, you could end up like giving access to unauthorized users, right? And then leaving some open ports knowing or unknowingly, which is being getting detected through the scanning tools that we have on the external phase, right? Then like running through, if any attacker has identified one single port open, it would definitely go ahead and search for what all services are running on that port, right? Identifying the services, it would go ahead and find for the publicly available exploits on it, right? If the exploit is successful, then the attacker is inside your network, right? So it's very crucial to monitor the network devices as well, and not leaving any unnecessary ports open out on the public exposure, right? Failing to monitor the expiration of the third party domains that are linked to your subdomains can lead to subdomain takeovers, right? This is also one of the methodology that an attacker does, we as a pen tester do in while performing an OSINT activity. So we do monitor for the third party domains that are linked to the targets domain and subdomains, and then we find if the this particular the subdomain has expired, the certification part of it has expired, right? Then we go ahead and then we purchase the domain, right, and take the ownership of it, right, and then host the similar content to the target, and then perform phishing attacks right on it. So uh, so we have done it for a couple of organizations as well. Another one is like not regularly auditing the external services that the subdomains points to and ensuring that they are secure and still in use. Right, failing to basically keeping an entire inventory on in your hands that are basic on the assets that are basically internet facing, and that basically contains some crucial PII information. So ensuring that the external services that you have already exposed, right, so it's very crucial to monitor what sort of services has been exposed and where it is pointing to. Does it have any connection or interlinkage to some other use services, like the third party services, right? So monitoring those and auditing them is like one of the crucial activity that one needs to have in place. And there are many more which falls under this criteria of common mistakes and misconfiguration that could lead to certain other attacks, right? Focused attacks, I would say. Here are some live POCs that I've managed to pulled out, and I've uh, just hide the data to ensure the integrity. Exposure of secrets in the JavaScript, the client side, secret exposures. So here the credentials were hard coded. If you'd see the upper line, right there, it contained a token. The bearer token was also found in this particular client side script. Then there are some code exposure, code leaks via GitHub repositories that contains another secrets in it. Here I have hided it. So here the secrets are hidden. It basically contains a token to APIs calls, which were basically used to consume and gain unauthorized access to all the APIs that the target company holds, right? Then there is another example of the leakage of the API keys to Swagger platform, right? If you see there are like bunch of APIs that were exposed, right? And basically, I was able to access all of them because authorization token was also with me. So using that, I was basically able to consume all the APIs. Another example is leakage of API keys and secrets to Postman, GitHub, and Swagger. So I've just highlighted the GitHub's one. So here you would see AWS Cloud secrets were hard coded and exposed in a like in a public workspace. So you would see that there is AWS access key as well, there is secret access key as well, and then there is a session key secret as well. Using all these three, one can easily running a CLI and then putting up all of these values in an environmental variable, one can easily gain access to them CLI access to the exposed keys AWS environment, and then going further, then it could be the attacker basically would understand what all permissions are attached, what all mappings or resources has been attached to this, and for perform its own curated attack, right? The next one is leakage of API keys and secrets to Postman. If you see here, the client ID and the client secret has been exposed, right? And in the API call, if you see, it's of the generate token API, right? So you can basically generate the token for yourself, and then you can gain access to and gain unauthorized access and consume the other APIs as well that are leaked, right? And then there are some examples of misconfigured cloud buckets. So these were publicly available, and whatever file types or data that were stored in that cloud, in that storage in the S3 bucket. So I was able to basically access, download, and dump all the data in it, right? So these were some of the live example that I have basically was able to manage and identify and exploit. uh, let's understand what is attack surface monitoring. So attack surface monitoring basically underlies on the external perimeter. So it's like identifying and analyzing the secure the potential vulnerabilities, entry point, one could say, for any attackers to find it and then exploit, like identify a weakness in it and then exploit it further to gain access to the internal resources, right? So it is very crucial for any organization to have an understanding on what does your external security posture looks like, or having a visibility on it. Critical assets that are public facing, critical APIs, what are mobile assets also, it's easily available on the designated app store and play store. So there are cases as well where some of these secrets are being leaked via mobile apps as well, right? There are API call that are some of the APIs that are used in a mobile application are misconfigured, and one could is basically evaluate it or escalate that particular weakness to gain another access to another internal resources, right? So attack surface monitoring is all about like monitoring your external parameter, the external facing of your organizations, right? So it does involve a constant monitoring for all the resources that are publicly available, right? It's like being a vigilant in analyzing your external posture, right? uh, so why this is becoming a trending topic in like today's world is because we have all seen cybersecurity, or as well as there is like an exponential growth in IT field, right? There are various technologies that are being coming up, that are being growing, and that has inter connection between the existing resources, existing technologies, right? And there are many, I would say, technologies that also have like interdependencies as well, right? So first it's like the exponential growth in of the technologies. Then we have like expanded attack surfaces, because it's not like one specific area that an attack could look or focus on, right? There are, as we have seen, and as I've explained, there are like many areas for an attacker to cover to attack one target, right? So it's like your attack surface like got expanded because uh, your uh, your dependency or your requirement on the technologies has been increased. And since there are like not one specific dependency or on any of the technologies, so your wide range of like as your requirements has been increased, your wide range dependence on the technology has also increased, due to which your attack surface has also expanded, right? And hence like the continuous monitoring is like become an has become like an essential part of it, right? So these basically brings in the complexity of it, because it is crucial to safeguard your digital assets, right? But there are many, I would say, uh, controls as well. There are many tools as well that gives an efficient results out of it. And if one has like pretty basic understanding to what needs to be like which area needs to be pretty much focused for ensuring better security, so I think the job could be like a lot easier, right? But not having any knowledge or on the outer phase, right? Then it becomes a challenging part for everyone to safeguard your potential assets, right? So what are the benefits of attack surface monitoring? Like, so first it gives you like a continuous visibility. It gives you an understanding of what of on like how does your external security posture looks like. It also gives you an visibility to the assets that you basically own. Some of the assets which are like unintentionally configured and is exposed on the internet, because there are a couple of times that some of the assets this basically happens in a testing phase, like in um, so some of the IT people or team has unknowingly for testing purposes created one domain, mapped to one of your subdomains, and have run couple of services on it, right? And without any knowledge has forgotten to take down the services and has just kept it running, right? So visibility on that part is what is one of the key benefits of attack surface monitoring is. And then it also gives you the visibility of the services that could bring in us like a potential vulnerabilities. And you could basically just review it, and then you could basically fix those loopholes as well. And it also comes in with uh, like uh, like the tool Burpswit does, right? It gives you an extensive overview of which could be the potential areas in any of the application that you're testing, the weakness or the potential areas that could have a vulnerability, the parameters also it could highlight. The similar kind of thing you would get in the attack surface monitoring as well, in the under configuration management part. And then there is a threat intelligence as well, right? That could basically act as an proactive thing, kind of a thing for you, right? So it basically it will basically keep on continuously monitoring your external perimeter, and based on the patterns, like every AI design tool, it requires a continuous, feeding of the data, right? So one could basically create a pattern on its own. So if you're like very pretty much familiar with what kinds of cyber attacks are being currently happened in the past, currently could be an area for an attacker to focus on. So one could create a pattern of these scenarios, of these case studies, and it could feed to your, ASM tool, right? And making it basically proactive into identifying the vulnerability before, and uh, like uh, like before it's being converted into a actual CV, right? So this is one of the possibilities once get into this domain, right? And then you will have an early detection of the potential threats on the external side as well. This also works well in the on the internal side as well. So it basically gives you an complete visibility on the leak data, your DNS mappings, your IP addresses that are publicly available, on the branding part as well. It also does keep has the capability to give you an extensive results by scanning the dark web, like deep dive scannings as well, which results into continuous monitoring, and then which results into extensive overview on the code leaks part, right? Then it gives you information on the client sides, secrets as well that are being exposed. Uh, so it also has a capability to basically monitor your external third party libraries or component that are being used in any of your assets, right? So these are basically the benefits of attack surface monitoring. So full attack surface monitoring, it's basically pretty much similar to what we have just discussed, right? And in full attack surface monitoring, it's basically like a continuous monitoring of all your external assets, and the key areas that it focuses on, this domain subdomain that you as an organization own, right? The defacement monitoring part, if there are any third party leakage, right, through which one can deface your website, right? Like pull down your original content, and then like create its own content and put it up on your subdomain or your domain. That is defacement, right? So attack surface monitoring also has a capability to detect these kinds of techniques and these kinds of threats as well. It also looks for phishing and fake application that are like the ownership does not fall under you, but has the similar content to your applications, right? So it has the capability of scanning and monitoring this area as well. Then what all IPs have been exposed on the internet and the services running on it. If the services are having some sort of weaknesses in it has a capability to detect it, right? It also covers like the list of name servers and ASN that are active for you to just have a visibility that these are all information that is easily extractable out from the internet, right? Then code leak detection is there, right? Then we have like dark web monitoring and scanning as well. Uh, then it also contain the capability of credential leak scans as well, right? Continuous pen testing, SSL TLS misconfiguration, secret discovery, cloud misconfigurations, risk scorecard, which is an extensive to sum up the entire once the monitoring has been done, once the identification has been done, once the analysis has been done. So it also comes up with a risk score giving you a visibility of it, right? Then we have technologies stack. This is where the SCA comes in, right? The software composition analysis. It gives you an overview of all the third party libraries and components that are being used, along with its version, along with if the public exploit of this particular library or component is available or not, what severity that could go, the impact that it could cause, right? Everything. Then the threat intel. So we have NVD, and we have other databases as well that keeps the CVs trackings as well, right? So, and there are a couple of other non I would say verified websites as well, that gives you leaks on in the dark web as well. that gives you leaks of the 0 days as well. And because anybody takes like 3 or 4 days for a CV to be published. But if you are an early adopter, like one the threat intel team, I would say, or the one who basically keeps on like a group of people or a team that basically looks into the security research part, right? They basically could scan through a couple of these websites for the early on release of CV, and then hack into your attack surface monitoring tool, and then basically highlight you, saying that this particular resource or this particular component had this particular vulnerability, and then is mapped to this CV. So it's like an early on detection for you, right? So that's all on the attack surface monitoring part. This was just I mean so basically I work at HBS Tech Ventures, and we are also like into designing our own ASM tool. So this was an coverage that we give and we offer. So if you want to know more about it, you can definitely get in touch with me. So the overview of like one should have, being in a security domain, right, is to have like an extensive like understanding on your external security posture, right? So this is what the scorecard I was talking about, and this gives you like an extensive I would say overview on what and where your security posture on the external face is, right? So let's not forget the Log4j event that happened back in 2020, uh, the dependency monitoring, right? Uh, so one should also, as I said, it is crucial because third party components are like very easy to detect. And if one particular component has a dependency on another component, so and if that component has a vulnerability in it, right, so it readily affect your application, right? So having an thorough understanding on what all component that your web application or your asset is using, and its interdependency on another third party packages or components, and whether they are running on an appropriate version or the latest version or not, or the security patches has been applied or not, or how are we on the risk compliance part, if there are any licensed version of it, are we using an appropriate license of it, right? If it's an open source, are we ensuring the integrity of it, right? So it's very crucial for one who belongs in an security domain. It's very crucial for you to have an extensive overview and visibility on this, because one single component misconfiguration could lead to a disaster. We have seen the examples of it, right, at the very beginning, right? So attack surface monitoring and attack surface management, it has come up from the deviation called as an open source intelligence. That's an OSINT that many security researchers as well as attackers does. So what is basically OSINT? So OSINT is like just grabbing or it's like collecting information of the internet on the available target, and based on the collected and identified information, right, doing a thorough analysis on it, basically finding weaknesses in the identified resource assets, and then like trying a couple of exploits on it, right? So it has like major area, right? One uh, one, one one could use Google dorking as one of the techniques, uh, and you would see, if say for example I want to just find out the crawled results of say for example of bug crowd, right? So I would just simply use Sight as one of the method that I use in Google dorking, and then I would give my target company's name. So whatever Google has already crawled in their in its own crawling engine, right, the result would show up on the screen, right? So all you need to do is type this and hit enter, right, and you would see all the crawled results over here. So if you see, there are a couple of people's profile that that has been crawled, and you could see bunch of other things. I also have a list of Google Docking keywords with me, that if anyone wish to know further, I'm happy to share that information with you all. Uh, so in OSINT, there are like various methods that one could use to collect the information. So Google Dorking is one. Then there is deep web and there is dark web scanning as well. And of course, there are a couple of other keywords for running an appropriate, I would say, run check in that area as well. And we have seen how code leaks and data leaks happens, how secret leaks happens. We have seen how misconfigurations happens, right? So OSINT is all about finding all of this on all the possible information, all publicly available platforms, I would say, we could use to basically gather the information on the target that we wish to analyze, and that we wish to find the security weaknesses in, right? And in here in this screenshot you would see what OSINT is all about, right? Let me just zoom it for you. So in OSINT from framework, it basically involves everything. It right from your usernames, your email addresses, your domain names, to images, videos that could be of certain use of certain useful information for an attacker to perform further attacks, right? Then there are other people search engines. Then there are instance messagings, right? Then there are some public records. Then there are search engines, right? That we just spoke about. Some metadata. Of course, dark web is one of the like most uh, major area that one could go for data leaks as well. And then there are a couple of other areas as well to cover, right? So in IP addresses, there are like these bunch of method that you could go look for. And there are some public tools also available. I would say open source tools are available where you could actually gather these informations, right? Then we have registries where it contains some registry search images dump and data, where you could find the there was this one attack that happened on the Amazon registry, where the serverless compute engine was used, I believe, and that basically contained some misconfiguration, due to which an attacker was able to basically get access to all the data that was stored in that Amazon uh, registry image, right? It was also due to use of some third party component that had a vulnerability in it, due to which an attacker was able to exploit it, right? So there are many areas that OSINT framework contains, where an attacker could go and basically search for each of the areas, and then find some of the other useful information around it. And using that identified information, one can easily basically understand what all controls you have, security controls you have on outer side, and then finding weakness in it, and then exploiting it further to gain access to internal resources. So this is what OSINT frameworks looks like. And um, the tools basically that we use in OSINT is like search engines that we have just seen. Google docking methods are there, Bing search engine. There are other DuckDuckGo specialized engines as well to keep you off track of whatever result that you are searching, right? So that one cannot trace you back on whatever you were crawling results you were doing on one specific target, right? Then there is social media scrapping as well, right? Then there is web scrapping, basically to just get the client side data of the web application. Once you have the client side data with you, you can basically extract some of the other hard coded secrets, I would say, in it. And we have seen the examples, and how using client side scripts and everything could lead to one or the other vulnerability, and one can easily actually exploit it. Then there are public record search as well, for if an attacker is targeting some government websites or everything. So these are few of the tools that underlies in OSINT, as in to gather the information. And here are some best practices on the DevOps side. Like implement like strict access control, to follow regular audits to ensure the code repositories are in line within your company policy only. And then utilize the pre-commit hooks for to ensure that none of the changes made by any of the users are being directly exposed somewhere outside your network. You utilize secret scanning tools to prevent sensitive data from being exposed on the internet. Use environmental variables for secret management, especially the API keys. Ensure that the API keys are, you're not using pre-shared keys by any means, because there are like other attacks on that as well. To monitor your lead company credentials, uh, and ensure that the reused passwords are not being, in a practice, and enforce strong password policies. Ensure that you're using password vaults or password storage managers for managing your passwords efficiently. Ensure that you basically look for secrets in client side code as well before making it public on the internet, right? Ensure that you conduct security audits assessments as well on that. Regularly update your third party components. uh, do a run check on the vulnerability scanning in the used third party components. Routinely audit all the cloud storage just to ensure that the appropriate access, like it has been restricted to the internal use only, and not being given access to any public users. Any, even if you were to buy any third party domain or subdomain, to ensure that you are using some sort of access control mechanisms to ensure the secure accessibility of that particular assets, right? Ensure that the Docker containers are securely configured, and like no secrets out of any of the images exposed on the internet are being exposed outside your Docker environment. For the one who are already in this field, in cybersecurity field, for them the best practices goes like, you need to have in complete visibility on the inventory part of it, like what all assets you have, how like also the data classification of it, classifying it, which are the critical one that needs most of the like attention, and for which the security controls and other parameters in place and efficiently, without leaving any misconfigure or weakness to any outsider to exploit it, right? Use automated tools to identify the weaknesses, identifying the entry points, the exploit points, and then fix it before some attacker has exploited it already. Have a real-time visibility onto your attack surface posture, right? External posture, right? Integrate the threat intelligence feeds to stay informed about the emerging threats, and any relevant vulnerabilities to your organization. Conduct security assessments, conduct security audits, ensure that the ASM best practices are in line with your existing security controls to ensure the evolving security requirements. Established a clear social media policy to ensure that no or any specific data pertaining to uh, like compliance are being leaked via this method. Ensure that you continuously assess and improve your ASM best practices based on the past lessons learned from security incidents that you may have encountered, or any emerging threats. Always stay updated on the new attacks or that are being published on the internet, just to ensure that that particular component is not being used within your environment or within your infrastructure, and adjust your monitoring strategies accordingly, right? And yeah, I think that's it for today from my side. Do you have any questions, like anyone? I'm open to take questions.
Hi, Antara. I don't see any questions at the moment, but it
Okay,
was wonderful session. Like I loved it, every bit of it. It was very, very informative.
thank you.
Yeah, I am sure people will reach out to you and ask you more questions. To you soon for any questions.
Sure, sure.
Thank you so much. Looks like my
Thank you.
internet
Thank you
is
so much for
little
this.
shaky. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for allowing me to present this topic today. I hope it went well. And if there are any questions, I've already left my LinkedIn profile link. You can reach out to me anytime you want. and then we can discuss this further. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in and listening to her. Thank you.